Night cloaks Berlin, engines thunder overhead. On the shattered runway, a young boy presses his ear to the stone, listening for hope. Why do planes roar when the world below is starving? Tonight, the city's fate hangs between clouds and ambition. Imagine waking to the scent, not of breakfast, but fear. The Soviets have choked Berlin's supply lines. Only silence haunts empty tracks, and each morning, the city counts the hours until the next delivery, the next chance at survival or surrender. I am Anna, living on rationed imagination and dreams. Even bread is a memory here. Still, I rise with hope. From my window, I watch distant specks in the sky, each speck a promise of life or disappointment. A forgotten coal shed becomes the heart of Anna's world. Here her family warms their hands over brittle hope. Every lump of coal is a blink in the darkness, rationed, clung to, weighed against the price of another cold night. General Lucius Clay paces a cramped operations room. He faces a dilemma: gamble thousands of lives on daily flights or leave Berlin's people behind. He chooses courage, ordering what history will know as Operation Vittles. No blueprint exists for moving mountains through thin air. The Soviets expect capitulation. A hungry city will bend. Clay's radio voice, firm as oak, reaches Berlin. You will not be abandoned. Each word lands like thunder, electrifying the city's resolve. The Soviets underestimate something powerful: Berliners' stubborn yearning for freedom. Close your eyes, hear engines rising in chorus. American pilots, hands trembling with fatigue and adrenaline, grip controls as rain blurs glass. The city below lies hidden beneath clouds, yet where others see risk, these airmen read maps of hope. Captain Halverson's hand slips a secret package, a parachute-loaded bundle, out the cockpit window. As it floats, he wonders, can a piece of chocolate truly lift a child's spirit? The answer will ripple across a city gasping for small miracles. Berlin's children run to the fence, arms raised. Uncle Wiggly Wings, they call him, the pilot who drops candy from the sky. In a landscape of hunger, a single chocolate bar arrives like a comet, trailing sweetness, shattering Soviet calculations with laughter. Each flight faces invisible threats: fog, ice, and the shadow of Soviet fighters circling like hawks. Pilots land by faith, guided by flickering beacons and whispered coordinates. Crashes scar airfields, lessons etched in fire and twisted steel. Yet new crews always take their place. In the crowded control tower, air traffic controllers chain smoke, sweat beading on brows as they choreograph a ballet of steel birds. Every minute, a plane must land. One mistake, the whole operation collapses, and Berlin falls with it. Mark, a young navigator, writes letters home to his sweetheart. He never describes the fear at Tempelhof: screaming engines, a wall of blinking lights, the shudder of landing wheels. Instead, he describes city lights, scattered jewels surviving amid ruin, hope flickering against darkness. Allied crews share bread with Berliners on moonlit airstrips. Smiles bridge languages, forging brotherhood against the siege. Soldiers taste gratitude in every cup of weak coffee. In this new world, even the simplest kindness becomes both a defiance and a shield against despair. The Soviets tighten their grip, but Berliners sabotage despair with small rebellions. Illicit radios, whispered news, forbidden songs. Each illegal broadcast promises connection, calling courage forth from deep reservoirs of faith. The city's spirit feeds on stories, as vital as flour or coal. On ground level, Anna struggles between hope and resentment. She wants to trust the airlift, wants to believe each dawn brings relief. Yet, ration lines and cold nights test her patience. What if the planes stop? She whispers. She waits for answers in the wind. In the heart of the city, the Brandenburg Gate watches, scarred but unbowed. It sees trucks idling empty, Soviet troops eyeing restless crowds, Berlin's bones shivering under blockade. The gate endures, a silent witness, its shadow cast by both floodlights and fear. The Soviet plan commands obedience through starvation. They expect Berliners to surrender. Logic says hunger makes cowards of saints. But calculation cannot measure Anna's stubbornness, or the odd poetry of faith grown in winter's soil. Soviet certainty starts to flicker with each landing. American mechanics, faces smeared black, race to repair battered engines. For every triumphant landing, a dozen breakdowns demand miracles, parts scavenged from wrecks, creative fixes with chewing gum and steel wire. Their ingenuity becomes as important as pilots' bravery. A single pilot stands at the end of the runway, eyes tracing distant headlights. Each takeoff gambles a life against promise. Sometimes he wonders, if I fall, will my city remember? In his fear, he discovers resolve. Every flight etches Berlin deeper into his bones. Anna's little brother invents an imaginary game. Count the planes. Each day's total means more than numbers. With every arrival, he tells himself, we are not forgotten. Even the sky-rattling din becomes comfort, a lullaby composed during perilous times. A British Dakota cargo plane skims rooftops, its hold packed with flour sacks. We fly by thread, thinks its pilot, nose inches from disaster. Each alley and steeple carved through fog is a victory, flour descending like snow, white hope settling on broken streets. Soviet propagandists amplify doubt. They paint Allied pilots as reckless cowboys turning Berlin into a graveyard in the clouds. Pamphlets flutter over city squares. Yet Anna wipes tears from her eyes as she reads, refusing to let fear take root. Inside a chilly apartment, Anna's father ponders choices. Should he trade his wife's wedding ring for potatoes? The ring is a symbol, love's memory forged before the war. Food promises life today, but memories shape tomorrow's. What would you choose, faced with such hunger? Allied engineers redesign airfields overnight. They widen runways with makeshift lamps, hand-guided tractors, and sweat. There is no luxury of time. Only necessity invents solutions. By dawn, planes thunder down new tarmac. The impossible transforms into the daily rhythm of resistance. Outside Tempelhof, children draw chalk lines where parachutes fell. This one brought sugar, claims a boy, pointing. The city maps its survival not by official records, but by memories of falling gifts. The line between despair and celebration blurs on Berlin's battered streets. In the damp quiet of their shelter, Anna's family listens to news on a hidden radio. Updates, small victories, upcoming flights arrive like oxygen. Each whispered bulletin reassures them. The world beyond the blockade remembers, and the war for Berlin's future still rages in the sky. Soviet soldiers eye Allied planes with weary fascination, watching a parade of silver shapes defy odds. Some light cigarettes and wager quietly. How many flights before the Americans give up? Few imagine the contest will last a year, and defiance will outlast winter. A cargo drop goes awry. Sacks explode on landing. Flour clouds swirl over laughing children. Amid scarcity, the mess is a feast for weary hearts. Anna collects a handful into her pocket, a white miracle, souvenir of a moment nobody planned, nobody can forget. General Clay reviews his maps, thousands of daily missions marked in red. Fatigue gnaws at commanders as fiercely as hunger among Berliners. Every decision could spell disaster. He aches to sleep, but duty eclipses exhaustion. Rarely is freedom weighed on such fragile, visible scales. Inside a Spartan cockpit, Captain Halverson battles both fog and regret. He thinks of lives depending on deliveries, wonders if a single missed drop could doom a family. Each mission fuses guilt with pride, his hands steady because the alternative is unthinkable. Tempelhof Airport transforms into a theater of urgency. Forklifts dance past refueling hoses as boots pound concrete in tight choreography. Worn but determined, the ground crews work through tornadoes and dawn's chill. Berlin's survival rests not on heroics, but relentless routine. An unexpected truth emerges: adversity bonds strangers. Berliners form friendships with Allied aircrews, shared jokes, letters, makeshift souvenirs. In desperation, they build bridges of understanding. Trust endures where treaties cannot. Sometimes history is shaped not by treaties, but cups of coffee and laughter forged under threat. In Soviet headquarters, commanders debate escalation. Should they risk open conflict or let pride fracture? In stifling smoke-filled rooms, maps and orders clutter tables. On both sides, egos chafe against reality. How much force should be spent to break or save a single city? Anna's mother dreams of peacetime. a pantry full of food, a night without rationing, laughter echoing from open windows. Each morning erases the dream, replaced by the tireless whine of engines above. But she clings to hope, refusing the temptation of bitterness, even as days blur together. Late at night, Anna stands in her doorway, watching the sky. Meteor tails of approaching planes flicker against the black. Somewhere overhead, Uncle Wiggly Wings tips his hand, guiding Candy toward her outstretched arms. The sky becomes a messenger, every light a lifeline. One morning, Soviet guards intercept a Berlin child smuggling flour in a toy wagon. The boy stares them down, silent but unbroken. The guards let him pass. They know. The city's children have already learned that freedom's taste is worth risking everything for. Allied intelligence intercepts rumors. Soviets may close air corridors. Every briefing carries nervous jokes laced with urgency. What if today is the last flight? Yet today's planes still launch, wings glinting. Tension tightens resolve. Nobody wants war, but nobody surrenders the sky. A sudden summer storm shreds planned flights, grounding dozens. In Berlin, apartments' anxiety festers. Food runs dangerously low. Anna's father volunteers to stack crates at Tempelhof, praying for good weather. In crises, everyone becomes a piece of the city's fragile defiance. Anna's schoolteacher gathers students close, reading letters from Allied pilots aloud. Stories of home, courage, and friendship join grammar lessons. In makeshift classrooms, hope is taught alongside history, a lesson penned in both English and German. Words cross walls even when food cannot. Watching rain-streaked windows, Anna wonders, does the world know how hard it is to wait? Patience becomes its own battleground, just as courage exists not only in grand gestures, but in every quiet moment when a city chooses not to break. Allied propaganda, unlike Soviet attempts, works by showing kindness. Newsreels exaggerate neither danger nor glory. They spotlight ordinary Berliners' stoicism. Eyes across America and Britain widen at scenes of hope under siege, sparking donations and letters. Strangers on distant continents become Berlin's unexpected allies. Berlin's jazz clubs throb again, clandestine saxophones calling dancers into the night. Forbidden rhythm, forbidden joy. Even as darkness falls outside, music fills shuttered rooms with a promise. The city's culture will never be starved into silence, no matter the blockade's grip. American nurses, faces gaunt from sleepless nights, tend to children weak with hunger. They read stories, wipe brows, and share what little chocolate they can spare. Their gentleness becomes a second airlift, one that carries battered hearts instead of supplies. Stories ripple outward. A Kansas schoolchild empties piggy banks to send candy to Berlin. Across oceans, compassion multiplies. Each gift, small but sincere, weaves new threads between strangers, reminding Berlin that they stand at the center of the world's conscience, not its edges. Cigarette ashes fall over Soviet papers. They conclude, Berlin survives, but for how long? The airlift drains resources, strains nerves, but does not snap under pressure. Each calculation ignores Berliners' stubbornness, a force more persistent than machinery or planning. Anna's shoes are patched, her bones thin, but every night she counts aircraft. When a neighbor faints in line for soup, she shares her slice. Hunger shapes her, but hunger does not define her. Small kindnesses pile up, brick by brick, against despair. As winter tightens, snow muffles the city's edges. Engines labor through drifts, frost gnawing cables. Pilots wrap themselves in every layer, wool against fear, leather against cold, courage against uncertainty. The blockade hopes to break spirit first, but the city grows resilient under ice. A British airman pens in his journal, "Today, a child saluted as I taxied by. It made all the cold, all the danger, worthwhile." Private victories become lifelines, reminders that the airlift matters, even when the world cannot see every triumph. Anna's brother stirs milk powder into a thick paste, delights at the sweetness. He offers her a bite. She hesitates, knowing there is little to spare, but she grins. In a world of scarcity, joy is precious and always shared. At Tempelhof, rumors swirl. Is Moscow preparing to shoot down transports? No one knows for certain. Each flight could be the last. Fear never leaves, but the commitment to fly persists, carried on the hope that tomorrow's mission will bring morning's first smile. Diplomats gather at round tables, hands clasped over cold coffee and sharper words. As tempers flare, the fate of Berlin balances on patience rather than power. For Anna and her family, these debates are distant thunder. Real struggles happen in ration lines and at kitchen tables. Holiday arrives, a day once filled with warmth and song. Anna's family celebrates quietly, lighting a candle with gratitude. Outside, engines thunder in the night, carrying presents more valuable than gold: flour, coal, hope wrapped in burlap and steel wings. Some Soviets, quietly impressed, admit admiration for Allied resolve. Even behind propaganda, respect cannot be hidden. For a moment, soldiers on both sides recognize something universal: what it means to fight, not out of hatred, but for the dignity of holding on. Records fall, new tonnage, new flights, new displays of ingenuity. The airlift becomes routine, but not less miraculous. Berlin rallies. Spirit weaves into the architecture of survival. It is visible in every handshake, every shared cigarette, every voice lifted in song above ruins. Anna's father finally receives a letter from family abroad. The outside world writes, "Hold on." Encouragement crosses borders as surely as planes cross clouds. Each word, each gesture, builds a silent wall stronger than concrete. Sheltering futures no blockade can erase. Winter recedes, ice cracks underfoot, and the sun returns streets to life. The first baskets of fresh fruit reappear at markets, a dazzling promise. Anna marvels as the city breathes again. Survival was not graceful, but it was triumphant against all calculation. The Soviets blink first. One morning, roadblocks vanish, trains roll again, crowds gather in disbelief. Was it a trick? But the silence of reopening roads is not treachery, but surrender. The city has survived. Blockade ends, not with an explosion, but with an exhale. Allied aircrews walk through cheering crowds, embarrassed by attention. Cameras flash, flags wave. Heroes in battered uniforms. They are thanked in every language. Anna runs to shake the hand of a pilot, finding courage reflected in his tired, grateful eyes. Tempelhof's runways empty of urgency, but memories remain. The silent field remembers the ballet of arrivals and departures, the hope stitched into every crate, every propeller. Berlin's heartbeat will always echo with the rhythm of those engines, proof that history can turn on acts of will. For Anna, life resumes, but never as before. She still listens for plane engines, listens for the city's spirit. The airlift's lesson endures. Survival is not a given, but a collective act, composed of strangers' kindness and choices forged under fire. You stand now with Berlin, no longer a city on the edge, but a symbol. The airlift did not restore paradise, but it preserved possibility. Freedom, learned in darkness, remains fragile and bright. What would you risk facing such a crossroads? Captain Halverson's chocolate drops became legend, proof that hope can fall even from the frayed edge of war. Every act of generosity shapes memory, binding strangers across skies, borders, and time. The legacy is not just the planes, it is the courage to keep faith airborne. Berlin's ruins still haunt its dreams, but every child raised during the airlift remembers resilience. The world watched, judged, and almost despaired, yet found in Berlin a defiant answer. Tyranny may starve a city, but cannot destroy its will to endure. Close your eyes once more. Remember the rumble of engines, the taste of chocolate, the scent of hope returning with each dawn. The Berlin Airlift proved history's greatest victories arrive frighteningly close to disaster, carried by faith, not only by force. As night falls, so too does the story conclude. The city endures, the lesson survives. When the world closes its doors, strangers open their skies. Berlin's freedom was not given, it was carried, one flight at a time, on wings and will.